The first meeting Evan Cross woke slowly, its eyes heavy as if they carried the weight of stone. The air around him smelled strange. A mix of sharp herbs and something metallic. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his ribs and forced him back down with a sharp breath. Blinking, he saw that he was not in any human hospital. The walls were curved and smooth, glowing with soft alien symbols that pulsed like slow heartbeats. A low hum filled the room, a sound that seemed to vibrate in his bones. Before he could understand where he was, movement caught his eye. A small figure stepped into the room, no taller than his chest. She had soft fur on her ears and tail, both flicking gently as she walked. Her eyes were bright and golden, catching the light like molten metal. She wore a short white tunic, marked with strange runes. Evan realized she was not human. She was a Beastwoman. Her tail swayed slowly as she looked at him, her head tilting. "You will relax," she said in a voice that was calm yet firm. "Your body is weak, and I am here to heal it." Evan tried to speak, but his throat was dry. He managed a rough whisper. "Where am I?" The Beastwoman ignored his question and stepped closer. Then, to his shock, she climbed onto the bed with him. Her knees pressed lightly against his sides. As she leaned over him, "What are you doing?" he asked, tense. "Checking your wounds," she replied simply, her hands already moving across his chest. Her fingers were warm, her touch surprisingly gentle. She pressed along his ribs, then over his shoulder, her tail curled around his arm. To steady herself, he didn't know if this was medical care or some alien custom, but it made his pulse race. She gave a small frown. "Your ribs are cracked. And you have deep bruising. You also have a gash on your side that was not stitched correctly." Before Evan could respond, she reached to the side of the bed and picked up a small pouch. From it, she pulled out a glowing salve that smelled faintly of mint. She spread it carefully over his side. The coolness sank into his skin, easing the pain in ways human medicine never could. "What's your name?" Evan asked. "Lyra," she said without looking up. "I am a healer for my clan. We use close contact healing to make the body recover faster." He blinked, unsure he had heard her right. "Close contact?" "Yes," she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "My body warmth helps your muscles relax, and my touch guides the healing energy." Her golden eyes flicked up at him, and for a moment he saw something personal there. Not just the professional look of a nurse, but something else. Then it was gone, replaced by calm focus as she worked. Evan noticed other alien figures passing by the doorway. Some paused to look in, their expressions curious, maybe even suspicious. Lyra's ears twitched every time they stared. She kept her attention on him, but her tail flicked faster now, betraying tension. "You are not safe here," she murmured suddenly. Evan froze. "What do you mean?" She glanced toward the door, then leaned closer. "Humans are rare here. Some do not see you as a person. Some see you as property." Her words sent a chill through him. He had been in dangerous situations before, but never as someone who could be owned. Before he could ask more, a heavy thud echoed down the hall. The door slid open with a hiss, and a tall alien officer entered. His armor glinted in the soft light, his eyes sharp and cold. "Lyra," he said, his voice like stone. "You are too close to the human. Do not forget your place." Evan could see the way Lyra's fur bristled along her tail. "This is my patient," she said firmly. "I will treat him as I see fit." The officer's gaze moved to Evan. It was the look of someone sizing up a weapon or a prize. He stepped forward, but Lyra shifted to block his view. Her small body between them felt like a fragile wall. The officer's lip curled in disgust. "Do not get attached," he warned. Then he turned and left, the door closing with a final hiss. Lyra exhaled slowly, her shoulders tense. She glanced back at Evan, her voice softer now. "You must trust me," she said. "Whatever happens, do not leave this room without me." Evan didn't fully understand the danger, but he nodded. Her tail brushed lightly against his arm as she stepped down from the bed. For a brief moment, he wondered if he was safer with her, or in more trouble than he had ever been before. The next morning, Evan woke to the soft hum of the medical bay. The air was warmer now, filled with the scent of something sweet and earthy. Lyra was already there, sitting cross-legged on a small stool, her tail curled neatly around her feet, when she noticed he was awake. She stood and approached with a small smile. "You are stronger today," she said, "but not enough to walk." Evan tried to protest, but the ache in his side reminded him she was right. He noticed she carried a shallow bowl filled with a glowing blue liquid. "What's that?" he asked. "Herbal serum," she replied. "It will knit your muscles faster." She dipped her fingers in the liquid, and then, without warning, climbed onto the bed again. Her knees settled gently against his hips as she leaned forward. "Relax," she said, in that same calm tone from yesterday. Evan swallowed hard, unsure if he could. Her hands moved with a strange rhythm, pressing firmly on the injured areas. Wherever her fingers touched, a faint warmth spread, followed by a tingling sensation. It felt nothing like human medicine. It was almost alive. She began humming softly, a tune that seemed older than the room itself. Her golden eyes were half-lidded, focused inward as if she were listening to something only she could hear. Evan's gaze drifted to her ears, which twitched in time with the hum. Her tail occasionally brushed against his arm, sending an odd shiver through him. "What are you doing exactly?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra paused for a heartbeat, then said, "My people heal through connection. The body remembers touch, and the mind follows. We bring warmth where there is pain. We guide the body to remember how to mend itself." He was still trying to understand when two alien medics walked past the doorway. They slowed, staring in at the sight of her straddling a human patient. One of them muttered something in their own language. Lyra's ears flattened, but she didn't stop. Her fingers pressed more firmly now, as if she were racing against something unseen. Evan frowned. "They don't like you helping me, do they?" Her eyes flicked to the door and back. "No," she admitted softly. "Some think you should not be healed at all, but I will not let them take you before you are ready." Her words sent a ripple of unease through him. Why would anyone want him not to recover? Lyra leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yesterday's officer, you will come again. He thinks humans are dangerous, but the truth is, he fears you." Evan blinked at her, startled. "Fears me? I can't even stand up right now." Lyra's lips curved in a small, knowing smile. "Even a wounded human is dangerous in the right moment." She worked in silence for a while, pressing the serum into his wounds. At times, she shifted her weight, her small body moving with surprising grace. Her furred ears brushed against his shoulder when she leaned too far. He could feel the steady rhythm of her breathing against him. The closeness was strange, but it no longer felt threatening. If anything, it felt safe. When she finished, she sat back on her heels and studied him carefully. Her tail swayed slowly, as if pleased. "You will rest now," she said firmly. "I will return tonight." Evan tilted his head. "Why tonight?" Her golden eyes softened, but there was an edge of worry in her voice. "Because tonight, we must speak about how to keep you alive without another word." She slid off the bed and padded to the door. Her silhouette paused in the glowing light. Before she stepped out, Evan was left alone with the faint scent of herbs and the warmth of her touch still lingering on his skin. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was no ordinary medical treatment, and whatever Lyra was hiding, it was about to pull him into something far more dangerous than his wounds. Evan's rest did not last long. He woke to the sound of heavy footsteps in the hall. They were slow at first, almost lazy. But each step seemed to carry weight and authority. The air in the medical bay felt different now, thicker, as if the room itself sensed something coming. The door slid open with a sharp hiss. It wasn't Lyra this time. A tall alien officer filled the doorway, his armor polished to a mirror shine. The metal caught the pale light and reflected it into Evan's eyes. His face was narrow, his mouth set in a line that looked carved from stone. 2 more soldiers stood behind him, blocking the hallway. The officer stepped inside without asking, his gaze sweeping the room until it landed on Evan. His eyes held no warmth, only cold calculation. "So, this is the human," he said. His voice deep and steady. Evan stayed silent, but his hands curled into fists under the thin blanket. The officer's gaze flicked to the side, and Lyra entered from the adjoining chamber. Her tail was stiff, her ears pressed back. She stepped in front of the bed before the officer could come closer. "Commander Raoul," she said tightly, "you should not be here during treatment." Raoul ignored her, taking another step forward. "I heard you were giving unusual care to this one." His words dripped with something between suspicion and disgust. "Humans are not patients, healer. They are trouble waiting to happen." Evan almost spoke up, but Lyra's hand twitched subtly, a silent warning to stay quiet. She straightened her back, her voice firm. "This human was found wounded on the edge of our territory. If I had not treated him, he would be dead. That is not our way." Raul's expression didn't change. "Our way is to protect the clan. And you risk it by keeping him alive." One of the soldiers outside shifted, his claws scraping against the wall. Raoul leaned slightly closer to Lyra, lowering his voice. "You are healer-born. Daughter of the chief, you know the old law. Closeness between your kind and a human brings danger. If the council hears of this, it will not be me who decides your fate." Evan's chest tightened. He had been in battles, stared down enemies twice his size, but this was different. Here, he was trapped in a bed. His only defender, a woman half his size, and yet, Lyra didn't move, her golden eyes locked on the commander's, refusing to yield. "If the council wishes to question me, they can, but until then, he stays in my care," she said. Raul's lips curved into a slow, thin smile. "Very well," he said. But his tone promised this was far from over. He turned to leave, his soldiers following. At the doorway, he looked back once more. "Remember, healer. Humans are predators. When they are wounded, they look harmless. When they are strong again, they bite." The door slid shut, leaving the room in silence. Lyra's shoulders sagged for a moment before she turned to Evan. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "He will not stop when he returns. It will not be to talk." Evan's mind raced. He didn't understand the full danger yet, but one thing was clear. If he stayed here, he might not wake up a second time. Lyra moved closer, lowering her voice even more. "Tonight, after the lights dim, I will tell you something I should have said before." Her tail brushed against his arm, not by accident this time. Her golden eyes held something fierce, something unshakable. "I don't care what the council says," she murmured. "You are mine to keep alive." The medical bay was quiet that night. Most of the lights were dim, leaving only a soft blue glow from the wall symbols. Evan lay awake, staring at the curved ceiling. Every small sound made him tense. The hum of the air vents, the faint clicks of the station shifting in its frame. He kept waiting for the sound of heavy boots, for Commander Raul to return, but instead, the door slid open with only a soft hiss. Lyra slipped inside, moving silently. She wore no white healer's tunic, now only a simple dark wrap that clung to her small frame. Her ears twitched as she glanced around the room, checking every shadow. When she was certain they were alone, she crossed to his bed and sat on the edge. "You are not sleeping," she said quietly. Evan shook his head. Hard to sleep when someone's planning to drag me out of here. Lyra's tail flicked once, a small flash of annoyance. I told you I would keep you safe, she said, but for that. You need to understand something. She hesitated, her gaze flicking to the door again. Then she leaned closer, her golden eyes catching the dim light. I am not just a healer, she whispered. My father is the chief healer of this station. That makes me the heir to his post, and it means I carry the old bonds of our clan. Evan frowned. Bonds? Lyra nodded slowly. In my people's law, when a healer uses our full method, the way I have treated you, it is not just medicine. It is a claiming. The one I heal in this way becomes part of my life. Our lives are tied together until death. The words sank in slowly. You're saying? Evan began. Yes. Lyra said firmly. By our law, you are mine. No one can touch you without breaking the healer's right, not even Raoul. Evan stared at her, unsure whether to feel relieved or trapped. Why didn't you tell me before? Her ears drooped slightly, because once I told you, you might think I helped you only to keep you. But that is not the truth. I would have saved you even without the bond. She looked down, her tail curling around her own leg. But now? This bond is the only thing keeping you alive here. Evan thought back to the way the other medics stared, the way Raoul spoke. It all made sense. They weren't just suspicious. They knew what Lyra had done, and if they don't respect the bond. He asked. Her voice was steady, but her hands were tight in her lap. Then they will kill us both. Silence filled the space between them. Somewhere far away, the station groaned as it shifted. Lyra reached out suddenly, placing her hand over his. Her palm was warm, her claws barely brushing his skin. I will not let them take you, she said. I don't care what it costs me. Evan didn't know what to say. He had been in dangerous situations before, but never because someone had tied their life. To her small form beside him looked fragile, Atia, but he could see the steel in her eyes. Whatever danger was coming, she had already chosen to face it, and now, so had he. Evan woke to the sound of Lyra's voice. Urgent but low. Get up, she whispered. Her golden eyes sharp in the dim light. His body still ached, but there was no time to ask why. She was already pulling open a hidden compartment in the wall, revealing a small bag. What's going on? He asked, trying to sit up. They're moving you tonight, she said, her voice tense. Not to another medical bay, to the holding cells. Evan's chest tightened. And once you're in those cells, I can't reach you again, she added. She reached into the bag and pulled out a small injector. This will help your body ignore the pain for a few hours, she explained. It won't heal you, but it will let you run. Evan didn't like the sound of that, but he held out his arm. A quick sting, a spreading warmth, and the sharp ache in his ribs began to dull. Lyra tossed him a dark, loose cloak from the bag. Put this on, she said. It will hide you from the station's scanners for a short time. Evan slipped it over his shoulders, surprised by how light it felt. It clung to his body like mist. He realized her clan's healers didn't just know medicine, they knew secrets. Too, she moved quickly to the far side of the room, pressing her palm against a section of wall with a faint click. A narrow maintenance hatch slid open. It was barely wide enough for her to fit through. This leads to the lower service tunnels, she said. No guards, no cameras. But we have to move fast. Evan tried to stand, but his legs trembled. Lyra was at his side in an instant, her small shoulder under his arm. Lean on me, she said. I'm stronger than I look. Her tail flicked behind her as if to prove the point. Step by step, they moved toward the hatch, the hum of the medical bay fading behind them. Inside, the tunnel walls were close, the air heavy with the scent of metal and dust. Pipes ran along the sides, dripping with condensation. Evan had to stoop to avoid hitting his head, but Lyra moved quickly. her small frame slipping through the space like water. She paused often, her ears twitching, listening for sounds beyond the metal. After several turns, they reached a junction where faint light spilled in from a grated vent. Through it, Evan could see the edge of a docking platform, ships resting in shadow. "That's where we're going," Lyra said. "My cousin is a cargo pilot. He owes me a debt. If we reach his ship, he'll take us off this station." Evan felt hope stir, but it didn't last. A sudden metallic clang echoed from somewhere behind them. Lyra's ears snapped toward the sound, her expression tightening. "They've already noticed you're gone," she said, her voice dropped to a whisper. "And they're coming." The clang grew louder, echoing through the narrow tunnels like a warning drum. Evan glanced back, catching the faint glow of lights bouncing off the metal walls. They weren't alone anymore. Lyra's ears flattened against her head, and she grabbed his arm. "Move," she said sharply. "Now." They pushed forward through the twisting maze of service passages. Evan's breath came hard, but the injection still kept the worst of the pain away. Behind them, the sound of boots striking metal quickened. Voices barked orders in a language he didn't understand. But the tone was clear. Capture, not talk. Lyra dropped to her knees suddenly, sliding into a side tunnel barely wider than her shoulders. Evan hesitated at the tight space. "Trust me," she hissed, already crawling forward, with no choice. He followed, the rough metal scraping against his cloak. The tunnel bent sharply, then opened into a vertical shaft. Lyra grabbed a rung of an old ladder and began climbing, her tail wrapping for balance. Halfway up, she stopped, listening. The voices were closer now. The beam of a searchlight, flashing briefly into the lower tunnel they'd left. "They're splitting up," she whispered. "That means they're trying to cut us off." Evan gritted his teeth and climbed faster, the metal groaning under his weight at the top. Lyra pushed open another maintenance hatch. Cool air rushed in, carrying the faint scent of fuel and ozone. Evan hauled himself through and found they were in a dark cargo bay. Stacks of crates towered around them like a forest of metal. Dim lights flickered above, casting long, broken shadows. "This way," Lyra said. Weaving between the crates, her steps were fast but silent. Evan tried to match her pace, but the echo of pursuit was getting louder again. A sudden burst of light flooded the far end of the bay. Two soldiers stepped in, scanning the rows of cargo. Lyra yanked him behind a large crate, pressing close to keep them hidden. Her heartbeat was fast against his side, her tail flicking in short, tense movements. "We can't go around them," she murmured. "We'll have to go above," before Evan could ask what she meant. She sprang upward, grabbing the edge of a crate and pulling herself onto it with ease. She crouched there, her hand outstretched to him. "Come on," she urged. "Don't think, just climb." He grabbed her hand, and with her help, scrambled up onto the crate from this higher vantage. The soldiers below looked like hunting predators searching for prey. Lyra pointed to a narrow beam running across the bay toward a high platform. "If we cross there, we can reach the dock doors," she said. It was a thin, unsteady-looking path, but there was no time to hesitate. They moved across the beam slowly, the air buzzing with the hum of machinery. Halfway over, one of the soldiers looked up. A sharp shout echoed through the bay, followed by the metallic click of a weapon charging. "Run," Lyra said. And this time, Evan didn't argue. They sprinted the last few steps and jumped onto the platform. The dock doors were just ahead, but as they reached them, a shadow stepped into their path. Commander Roel, blocking the way, his eyes burned with cold fury. "You should have stayed in your bed, human," he said. "And you, healer. You've made the last mistake of your life." Rawl's presence filled the space like a storm. The glow from the dock lights gleamed off his armor, throwing sharp lines across his face. Two soldiers stepped out behind him, their weapons raised. Evan felt the weight of the moment, no more. Running beside him, Lyra's tail lashed like a whip, Her golden eyes locked on Raoul. "You will step aside," she said, her voice low but steady. Raoul's lips twisted in a cold smile. "You think Healer's Law protects you here? This is the docking bay, outside the bounds of your little rules." His words cut through the air like a blade. Evan saw the flicker of worry cross Lyra's face, but it didn't last. Instead, she stepped forward, placing herself between him and Raoul. "Then you'll have to go through me," she said. Raoul didn't hesitate. Lunging forward with shocking speed, Evan's body moved on instinct. His arms sweeping Lyra aside, just as Raoul's strike came down. Pain shot through Evan's ribs, but he used the momentum to grab the officer's arm. The impact rattled his bones, but adrenaline burned away the hesitation. The soldiers moved in, but Lyra was faster than they expected. Her claws flashed in the dim light. Slicing through the first soldier's weapon grip, he howled and fell back. The second soldier aimed at her, but Evan stepped in, swinging a heavy cargo hook from the wall. The blow sent the weapon clattering across the deck. Raoul snarled, grabbing Evan by the cloak and slamming him into a crate. The breath rushed from his lungs through the haze. He saw Lyra leap onto Raoul's back, her small hands gripping his armor as she drove her claws into the seams. Raoul roared, twisting to throw her off. That was Evan's chance. He drove his fist into the exposed joint of Raoul's armor. Once, twice, until the officer dropped to his knees. Lyra landed beside him, breathing hard. She glanced toward the dock controls. Then at him, "Now or never," she said. Together they stumbled to the panel, Lyra's fingers flying across the keys. The dock doors groaned, opening just enough for them to slip through. Beyond, the cold air of space rushed in, and the low hum of an engine grew louder. A small freighter drifted into view, its side hatch sliding open. A broad-shouldered alien waved them in, shouting over the noise. Lyra grabbed Evan's arm and pulled him forward. Behind them, Raoul was already struggling to his feet, his voice booming with rage. "You can't run forever, human." They dove into the freighter. The hatch ceiling shut behind them. The ship lurched as it pulled away from the dock, through the small viewport. Evan saw the station shrinking, the angry figures on the platform fading into the distance. Lyra slumped against him, her breathing ragged but her eyes still fierce. "You're safe now," she said softly. Her tail curled lightly around his arm. "But remember, human, you are mine to keep alive." Evan didn't argue. Out there, among stars, in danger, he realized the truth. He wasn't just running anymore. He was choosing to stay by her side wherever that path would lead.